Hello everyone, I'm Oluwakemi Ugwakeze. So today's episode on Dear Worship Leader series, we're going to continue with the stages of intimacy. That was our last episode, and today we're going to look at the me, the recipient. The Bible speaking in the book of Psalms, chapter 91 and verse 1. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High, he who dwells. There is the he that dwells. The recipient is the one that dwells with the Father, that abides with the Father, to receive, to understand the mind of God for the season, in order to birth a move or a revival. Jeremiah 33 verse 3 says, "Call unto me." There must be a caller. So today we are focusing on the me, that is the recipient, that is ready to carry this thing, to pray, to understand the move of God, the mind of God in this season, understanding the time and season. So we need to align ourselves to know, God, what do you want me to do this season? How do I receive from you so I can birth this revival, so I can impact my generation? So how do we position ourselves to receive from God? Number one, we must be available. Like the verse I quoted earlier, Psalm 91 verse 1, he who dwells. There is someone that is available, that is dwelling. So we must be available to dwell. We have the responsibility to make ourselves available for God to pour into us, for God to release those things to us. And we must be prepared. That's the second point. It is one thing to be available. It is another thing to be prepared. They might inform me of an event. I'm available to attend the event because maybe I'm less busy. But am I prepared? So it's one thing to be available, and it's another thing to be prepared. And the condition of our heart shows how prepared we are to receive this thing from God, to receive the deep and the secret things He's about to reveal to us, that's going to birth a revival. And the third one is emptiness. Emptiness, because a container that is already filled has no space for another content to come in. So we must empty ourselves. An empty heart is what God will fill. When we empty ourselves, then God will have a space to fill us. I love these two quotes. One by LUCADO says, when you are full of yourself, God can't fill you. God cannot fill you. But when you empty yourself, then God has a useful vessel. And that's just the me, making myself available as a vessel that God can walk through, that God can express Himself through. And the second quote by Mark Betterson, it says, if you are not hungry for God, then you are full of yourself. So we need to empty ourselves for God to fill us. And the last point is the alignment. To position ourselves for God to fill us, we must be available, we must be prepared, we must empty ourselves and also align ourselves. We align ourselves with God's will. We align ourselves with His plan for our lives. You can imagine a car that has a wheel misalignment. It cannot go fast. It's frustrating to the driver. It cannot even go straight until the car is being taken for wheel balancing. And that is WHEEL. But wheel misalignment, WILL. Wheel misalignment. When we focus on our own will than the will of the Father, we are not aligning ourselves with the will of the Father. But for God to pour into us, for God to birth a revival through us, we must align ourselves with His will. We must understand His agenda. We must understand His mind per season. And the wheel balancing can be done when you have noticed there is a misalignment, a wheel misalignment. The only place for the wheel balancing is in the place of prayer, where we ask God to align us with His will. Jeremiah 29 verse 11, for I know the thought that I have towards you. We must be able to trust God with the future and just say, God, I want to understand your agenda and I want to know my path, and align ourselves with His will. That is the me part. We've talked about the into. That is the me that we're focusing today. And when we are able to align ourselves for God to release those things to us, for God to release those deep and secret things that will birth the revival, that will birth a move in our generation, that will make the world a better place, then we begin to birth. And that is the seed. That is the fruit. That is the outcome. Because there is no how we're going to have an intimate fellowship with the Father without people seeing it, without people noticing it, without people partaking from it. So that will be our focus in our next episode, on the C. Until we come in our next episode, we come your way in our next episode. Remain rooted, remain planted, and remain connected. Thank you, and God bless you.